Look, I want the best for the city.
Philly was almost not even on the radar for you.
8 years that I've been living in Philadelphia, I've seen it get better.
Is there a big trade-off?
Philly's kind of invisible in Manhattan.
Why we have that problem and how we could fix that?
I can't believe I didn't know about this, sooner. I can drive to another part of town, to a nice restaurant, and find a spot on the street. I think this is frankly a steal.
So thank you, Rich, for coming on to our podcast today. Welcome, everyone.
My pleasure.
This is Rich Yen. Did I pronounce that correct?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Just ignore the I.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So we are sitting in the Residences at 2 Liberty, which is one of the finest condo buildings in all of Center City right now. We're in Rich's unit that we're going to be selling. So if you're interested in buying, this will be available for sale very soon. We're in unit 4503 at 2 Liberty. And Rich actually still will be living in the building after this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience in the building?
Yeah, sure. So we moved into the building in 2017.
Okay.
And then, I'm originally from New York, so I was looking for an urban, setting, right? And the location here is just spectacular. Yeah. Right. It's right, really in the middle of Center City, and really in the middle of all the things my wife and I are interested in, like the theater and restaurants and the like. And so we moved in 2017, and actually. Really fell in love with the building, right? We love Philadelphia already, right? But it was kind of like, just a great community, and very, actually compared to New York, very easy to get to know, right? And
as far as the people,
right, and as far as the facilities, right, and everything, right? Really very, very friendly, right? And so let's see, I guess. We lived here 3 years, right before.
In this unit.
Actually 4 years. And then if COVID happened, we wanted to, we wanted to be able to have people stay over, right, and our kids and stuff like that, and so we were looking for a bigger place, and we looked all around the city, right, at the new buildings, right, the Laurel and the Art House and the like, right, and of course the Ritz-Carlton, right. Stuff.
Did you look at 2100 Hamilton? I'm curious. It's not.
Which one?
2100 Hamilton. It's in a luxury space, not close to centers. I mean, it's in the art museum area. But I was just curious because a lot of people look at all three of the new ones: the Laurel, the Art House, and 2100 Hamilton.
Yeah, we really wanted to stay in kind of closer to Rittenhouse. Right. And so we looked at some other buildings too, right? Packard Grand and some other ones.
Okay.
Right, and really ended up coming back here, right? Because we really love the views here. We love the building, right? The people and the staff is terrific, right? And stuff. So it's very, very friendly. So we ended up buying a unit upstairs, right? A larger unit upstairs.
So you're not going anywhere.
So we're not going anywhere.
Gotcha. I'd love to talk more about the building, but just so we don't bore our audience here, because they're probably interested. A lot of my folks that watch my channel are thinking about moving to Philadelphia, right? They're not here yet. They don't know if Philly is for them. They're trying to figure out, okay, is this the right city for them? Honestly, some of them are still trying to figure out, is this the lifestyle? Not just Philly, but like city living. Is that the right choice for them? Because a lot of my clients are coming from the burbs where they got a 4,000 square foot home, right? And I know that's not your story, but I'm curious as far as your experience in Philly. You've been here for about 10 years now?
Yeah, 2017, 8 years, right?
Okay, so gotcha. And you came from New York City. Could you tell us a little bit about your background, just so that we can understand where you're coming from?
Sure. Let's see. I lived in New York for 25 years in Manhattan, right, Upper East Side. Gotcha. And basically met my wife in 2015. Okay. And she's from this area, right? And then ultimately she won, right? And so
that's why you came down.
It's being from New York, right? Manhattan. Right. There's kind of Philly's kind of invisible in Manhattan, right? It's like so I was like, oh, Philly's pretty nice, right? After I got down here, and you know, as I got to know the city, and especially Center City, right, better, it's kind of like, wow, there's a lot to like here, right? I mean, really, you know, if you're into music, if you're into theater, right, if you're into the art scene, right, you know, there's just a tremendous variety of you know, entertainment to explore. And then you know, it just like New York, right? It's an incredibly walkable city, right? You know, and so you know, you really don't need a car if you know to live here. And no, so really, I think one of the advantages of Two Liberty, honestly, is that it makes having a car very easy, right? You know, the parking in the building, the valet, you know, services and stuff like that. But yeah, it's very comparable, I think, to you know, the lifestyle we had in you know, in, Manhattan and the like. So yeah, if you're coming from the burbs, right, you know, it sure beats having to come in and out, right, you know, to the city, you know, when you want to have a night out, right, you know, you know, the 100%. Restaurants or whatever, right, you know, and yeah, I mean, I think you know, I really appreciate, you know, being able to stay late in the city, right, and then you know, and you know, be with people, and then not have to get in the car and you know, drive for an hour, right, to get back to, you know, to your bed.
100%. Now, I did say earlier that a lot of my clients are from the burbs, but you know, it's probably actually not accurate. It's probably about half of my clients already live in a city. And I have a lot of folks that are moving from New York City right now, and you mentioned a comment earlier that Philly was almost, you know, not even on the radar for you. It's like, what is Philly? And I hear that from a lot of my clients. Maybe not them, but a friend, family member, or colleague is like, Philly, like, where's that? So like an hour, 10 minutes on Acela, right? The fastest train to get down here, and driving maybe an hour and 40 minutes, no traffic.
It's actually fairly easy to get, you know, between New York and Philadelphia, right? Between Amtrak and the Turnpike, right? But yeah, it's kind of actually, there's a famous New Yorker cover, right? You know, where it shows New York City, Central Park, right? You know, blah blah blah, and then you know, New Jersey, and then California.
And that's it. You know, that's America.
That's the view from New York.
Sure.
And yeah, Philly's kind of invisible from New York. I rarely recall any conversation that included Philadelphia, you know, when I was living in Manhattan.
Do you have any guesses as to why that would be?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, New York, and New Yorkers consider themselves the center of the world. Right, and so you know, so everything outside of New York, you know, it's sort of you know, disappears rapidly.
third world country.
Right. It's kind of its own country, right? But yeah, I when I discovered it, it was kind of like, wow, you know, this is I can't believe I didn't know about this, you know, sooner, right? So yeah, in terms of you know, the actual attractions here, you know, there are many.
So initially, you know, Philly wasn't really on the radar, but if someone, and I don't know if you can remember this, like 10 years ago, or maybe even longer, if someone mentioned Philly, what was your impression of the city? Was it positive, negative, or just really
no? Probably negative. I mean, you know, what little I knew about Philadelphia. I mean, I had been here for some conventions, right? You know, stuff like that, right? You know, my daughter. I think we got my daughter to UPenn to look around, right, and stuff like that. But yeah, my impression of the city wasn't particularly positive, right? You know, and so yeah, I think that was all the more surprising once I did get to know the city. It was kind of like, really, it's really quite attractive, right? And very walkable and very accessible, right? You know, it's like in New York you have world class, you know, so many world class things, right? And it can be a major production to basically get to any of them, right? You know, in terms of the logistics of tickets and lines, and you know, and timing, right? And so yeah, I just found that you know, Philly had great things to see and do, right? And then you could actually do them,
right? You know, without waiting in line forever and seeing it right away.
Exactly. You know, they were just accessible, right? And you know, and affordable, right? In a way that just isn't true in New York.
So. Gotcha. So this is me being a little ignorant here. I've never lived in New York City. I don't go there a whole lot. But would that include eating out and like just good restaurants are hard to get a table at? Or are we talking about like Broadway shows when the new one comes out, you can't see it, or I don't know, something like that?
Yeah. So, look, you can, there's tons of stuff in New York, right? And so, the dynamic range of, good to best, right, is incredible, right?
Sure.
And so, you can always find something in New York, right?
Gotcha.
But if you want top quality stuff, right, that stuff is limited, right? And there's just so much demand for that kind of stuff in New York, right? And so you're going to have to plan, right, to basically get to some of those things, right?
Gotcha.
In Philly, it's just I think there's world-class restaurants, great shows, right? Great orchestra. We love the Philadelphia Orchestra, right?
Yeah.
And it's much easier for that caliber of quality of entertainment to basically get to it.
Gotcha.
Right. And afford it. Frankly, it's much more affordable, and frankly, all the housing, as you'd expect, right?
Is significantly cheaper.
Is way more affordable in Philadelphia, right?
Now, if a New Yorker's watching this right now and it's kind of like on the fence, maybe they haven't ruled Philly out, but it's not in yet, right? In their mind, maybe they're playing devil's advocate. They're like, well, I have so much good stuff here, and is Philly really that great? What would you say to them? Like, is there a big trade-off, or is it just like very marginal?
Well, yeah, I think there's no place in the world like New York.
Sure.
Okay, so I don't think they really compete in that
Sure.
way, right? It's different in Philadelphia, right? It's Center City is much smaller than Manhattan. Right. It's just they're really not comparable in that sense.
Yeah.
But I would say that the walkability of the city, right, the availability of all the services, that you'd expect, there's a great deal to be had, I guess, in Philadelphia, right? Because you get a lot of, of the vibe of Manhattan, right, and the attractions of Manhattan, right? But it's accessible. It's affordable, right? There's great people, right? There's great organizations, right, and the like.
Right.
So it's really I wouldn't say Philadelphia is the center of the universe, the way New York, the way New Yorkers feel, right? But it's damn good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really, really nice stuff here. So.
Yeah. That's that's helpful perspective. When I have folks from New York come in and tour the city for the first time, it's often with me in my car. We're driving around the city, looking at condos, looking at the neighborhoods, and one of the comments they make a lot is it's more beautiful than expected, or more manageable, more navigable, right? Because it's not that large. I mean, the first time you're here, or if you're here on your own, it's probably going to seem overwhelming,
right?
But once they're with me for like a day and a half in a car, they really have a good lay of the land, a good lay of Center City in particular. Obviously, Philly is much more than Center City, but where we're at right now in this building is primarily Center City, right?
All right.
And my channel is focused primarily on Center City. So most people watching my channel want to be in or around the Center City area. And I think a lot of times it's the perception, right? And we talked about this the other day, that Philly has a perception problem. And I'm curious if you have, I kind of asked this earlier, but if you have any thoughts as to why we have that problem and how we could fix that as a city. Like, why do people look at us as dirty, dangerous, what have you?
Yeah, I mean, I think and actually, this is somewhat true of Manhattan too, right, or New York in general, right?
Yeah.
The media focuses, on the lurid, right? And
it sells,
and the drama and the violence, right? And so it's a big city. I mean, what, Philly's the fifth largest city, sixth largest city, something like that.
I believe
right?
sixth.
Yeah. So we're a big city, right? Absolutely, and so. There's if you're focused on the news, right? It's going to show the worst of the city, absolutely, right? Then there's an opioid crisis in Kensington, right? And there's crime in in West Philly or wherever, right? But I think the overall effect. Right, because I think nothing, unlike Manhattan, nothing's pushing in the other direction, right? Of sort of letting people know, what the really nice aspects of Philadelphia are.
Gotcha, like a value proposition. So it's regularly being pushed for New York City, you're saying,
right?
But Philly, we're not really advocating for the city, so all that you see is negative.
Yeah.
Whereas New York, it's maybe balanced.
There's less balance in Philadelphia, right?
Gotcha.
So I think Philly gets a bad rap, right? I think it's actually one of the most underrated places in the country, right?
I believe that. There's other folks out there on YouTube, in particular, like City Nerd. If some of my viewers watch him, he's really fascinating guy, and one day I want to do a podcast with him. So if you're listening to this, we should do a podcast together. But he talks about Philadelphia, and he's very unbiased, it seems, in his research on cities, but he often has videos on like the top 10 best cities in the world or the top 5 underrated. And Philly is on a number of his videos for that reason, right? Like it's a really good value. I
could see that.
Perfect.
Yeah, I could see that, definitely. Yeah.
Got problems.
Yeah,
but everywhere has problems.
Yeah, there's problems everywhere. But I gotta say, I don't think, if you're living in Center City, you're not seeing that, right? At all. I mean, but I tell you, I felt that way in Manhattan too, right? We were living on the Upper East Side, right, and I be talking to relatives, right? And they're like, "Oh, how you surviving in Manhattan? How are you surviving in New York?" Right? And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Right. Yeah, it's the city mentality, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're not in it, like every city is uninhabitable, right? Like the safest city in the world, whatever that is, like they wouldn't probably.
I mean, New York's actually pretty safe, right? And Philadelphia is too, right? I mean, it's just you wouldn't know it from watching the news.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's some neighborhoods you probably wouldn't want to live in, New York City, and obviously in Philadelphia. If you can choose, you might not pick certain areas, right?
Right.
Where violence is elevated, or there's maybe the opiate crisis, right? You might not want to live right there,
right?
But overall, as a whole, the city is a good place. And I mean, obviously you believe that, I believe that, and everyone that I take into the city that's looking to, move here and purchase real estate, they are finding the same thing, that, wow, like this is better than expected. This it's really that cheap.
And I'd really add to that to say that in the, I guess, 8 years that I've been living in Philadelphia, I've seen it get better.
Right.
I mean, it's not just that it's good, right? But it's good and on the rise, right? In a really good way.
Yeah.
Right. So it's in terms of the housing stock, I think these new buildings are all amazing, right? They're way more expensive than this building, right? But but they are amazing, right? So. I think I see businesses growing. I see, lots of, encouraging signs for, for really making Philadelphia better and better in the coming years.
Right. So. Yeah. You mentioned the new luxury condo. So I'm curious, what buildings did you check out while you were checking? So did you go shopping twice? Like when you bought this unit, the one that's for sale, you looked at places, presumably, but did you go look at places again before you bought your second place in 2019?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because the new
they weren't around back then, right?
Exactly.
So I guess what buildings did you look at, and why did you choose 2 Liberty over and above those units or those buildings, I should say?
so after looking at the other buildings, which are they were all incredibly nice. Okay,
Yeah.
I would just say off the bat. I mean, they have real swimming pools, right? Which is
I was just at the art house today.
Yeah, and
Lovely pool.
and they're beautiful, right? Yeah, and it's really quite a luxury to have a full size pool, right? In the building, right? And so. And obviously the finishes are very nice, right? Really love a lot of the layouts and stuff like that.
Right.
But I got to tell you, we came back from looking at those places and kind of felt like Two Liberty's a good deal, right? I mean, the views are beautiful. We love the finishes here. We love the services here, right? And stuff.
Yeah.
And for what they were asking for in these other buildings, we kind of went, wow, Two Liberty's quite
it's good value.
Yeah, good value, exactly.
Right.
So and I got to say the other thing about Two Liberty, which I love, and I have always been this has always been important to me, is the views here are better.
Yeah.
Right.
The best in the city.
The best.
So for anyone who's not watching,
they are literally
the tallest views in the city.
They are literally
There's
the best
taller.
in the city, right? And so so I love being able to live in the clouds. It's you feel so good in the morning when you wake up and you look out the window and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
This is cool.
What's the tallest floor here? Is it
57, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Laurel and the Art House go up to about 47, 48 units. And those are the next tallest residential buildings in the city, residential condos in the city.
Right.
And then units here start at the
40th floor.
40th floor?
Yeah.
Okay. So, obviously, and then just go up from there. So the views are higher. And
so you can't go by the floor number.
Sure.
Because this building
is commercial.
Right. And so each floor is actually taller, right, than each floor in the residential towers, right?
Yeah.
And so I know this because we looked at a 40th floor place.
Wait, it doesn't feel the same
in the Laurel, right? And which we can see from here, right? And then we came back to this unit. And we're like, we're clearly above them.
Right.
Actually, if you look straight across, we're about even with the top floor.
Right, which is 48 over there.
Yeah, and we're on the 40th floor, 45th floor here.
Right.
So the view's better here.
Yeah.
Significantly better. And I think also that it's like being this close to One Liberty, you get quite a dramatic view, right?
Indeed.
It's like with the monolith of One Liberty right there, and then
which is right behind me. So if you're looking at my screen right now, you can see it right there.
Yeah, it's quite picturesque
for sure. So what other amenities do you really like about the building other than the views? I know you mentioned some already, but what's your favorite amenity about the building?
So they just
other than location.
Yeah, they just did a huge renovation of the common spaces on 37, right?
Yeah.
So the whole actually increasing the common area on 37. Right. So it's kind of spectacular actually, right? Between the lounge areas, right, and the gym's been expanded, right?
Yeah.
There's an endless pool there, and then a community room, right, with a kitchen and a pool table and stuff.
Very nice.
It's just very nice, right? Yeah. And it's really fun to take people to, right, and hang out,
right. And stellar views obviously as well.
Actually views in most, I think in every direction, probably, right on that floor. So that. I use the gym, as every day I'm here pretty much.
Gotcha.
Right. Let's see. I guess having a chauffeured house car is very nice, right? It's really a super convenience when you're going out to a restaurant or to the show, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I also love. Besides the location and stuff like that, right? I also love that we're over a shopping mall, a very nice shopping mall, right? Yeah. And so you literally can go downstairs without going out of the building,
right,
and go into this huge mall, right? Which has pretty decent pizza in the food court, right? So, so if you're hard up for a bite, right? And it's nasty outside, it makes for a very convenient option,
right?
And so
so the building overall very convenient.
Yeah, it's actually a complex, right? I mean, it's not just to Liberty, right? But it's also, the shopping mall, the hotel that's attached to the complex, right? Yeah, the Westin, right? Yeah. And stuff, and and then of course we're right in the middle of everything here, right? Like 2 blocks to Broad Street, right? The Avenue of the Americas, or the Avenue of the Arts, right. And then 2 blocks to Rittenhouse, right? And then 2 blocks to the Ben Franklin Parkway, right? To the museum area, right? Yeah. So I love being in the middle, really, literally in the middle of it all.
Right, and you got City Hall, Dilworth Park as well.
Right. Right.
Lots of amenities in this particular area. I know you mentioned the house cars, the private driver service. Yeah. That's shared with there's like about 120 units in here?
Yeah, I think that's right.
How hard is it to get access to that?
Not hard, actually. I wondered about that when I first got here, right? Because the building I was in Manhattan, I think was 190 units, right? Okay. And everything was always busy all the time, right? Yeah, I mean, there was an amenities floor, right? And stuff like that, but it was, you might have to wait at the gym, right? To get a treadmill, right? Or whatever, right? Because things were actually heavily utilized. What I find in this building is that everything is lightly utilized, right? It's like, I don't think I've ever seen a crowd at the gym.
Yeah,
right.
No, I haven't. I've been in the building a lot.
You
one or two here.
You see a couple people using the equipment and stuff like that, but it's very light, right? And so so I when I first got here, I was like, oh, you'll never be able to get that in this car. If it's anything like New York, that would be like ridiculous, right? Yeah. I mean, sure. If you're trying to book last minute, right? There's a likelihood that it's already booked. Okay. Right. But I have used it many times. Gotcha. And and again, I think you can only book it 24 hours in advance. So I think that's the most advanced you can book.
And you can't have a standing appointment.
Yeah, you cannot have a standing appointment, right? So you can't. Yeah, they can't be your do your commute for you, right? Or something.
Which is common in Philly. I was actually asking because I was curious how it compares to other buildings that I know of, but the New Yorkers are potentially watching this. I'm definitely watching this. And that's actually a really good insight, because I wasn't even thinking that in New York it's actually hard to use the car or amenities. Because I mean, in most condo buildings, most high-end condo buildings in the city, basically it's a similar thing to what you just said. Like the gyms are not that utilized. So it's interesting, maybe if New Yorkers watching this and thinking that they're going to move down here because it's a good value and like everyone's here and like they can't actually experience the value. That's not true in my experience, and obviously what you just said in your experience. Now, there are some buildings maybe that have a lot of rentals in them that maybe aren't as high end that I can think about, that their gyms are pretty well utilized, but even in those buildings, I've never seen a wait.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe we'll turn it to New York at some point. I'm probably not turn it to New York ever, but maybe we'll get there in like 20 years, but we're not there now. And there's a good value for what you're getting here, and the amenities are certainly accessible.
That's right. I can't even imagine waiting for a treadmill, right? In this building, right? I don't think it's ever come. I mean, I remember one time I was on the treadmill, and I think there's 3 or 4 of them, right, or whatever, and all of them were being used, and I was amazed.
Gotcha, right.
I mean, the first,
what's going on?
It's like I think that was only one time, right? As far as I can recall, right? So there's the other thing I actually you're reminding me is the elevator service here is awesome. Right? Because there's way too many elevators for the number of residents here, right? And so you're never waiting for an elevator. Right. Which now you're making kind of reminding me that that was definitely an issue at the building I was in New York, right?
Gotcha.
During rush hour, you might be waiting for an elevator for a few minutes, right? So.
Gotcha. One of the amenities that I really love about the building, and I'm sure you do too, at least compared to some other buildings, the front desk here is like concierge service is extremely helpful and extremely nice and pleasant. Unfortunately, that's not always the case in every building. I mean, they might be helpful, but not nice. But here they're both super pleasant. You know, Susan's been here for I think 15 years, and she's, I'm not sure her exact title, office manager, or but she manages the front desk, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the staff here is great. I mean, they really go out of their way, you know, to try to make the residents comfortable, right? I mean, you know, and whether it's, I mean, again, I think this goes with the whole notion of not having too much as the same density as New York, right? But yeah, people are very quick to help you, right? With whether if you're trying to move stuff in and out of the building, you got packages, you got pets, you got whatever, right? Children, you get a lot of help, right? And it's without asking for it. I mean, they're just there to really make your life easier. So, no, it's very nice.
So obviously you believe in the building, you're still staying here even after this unit sells. So just for clarity, this unit is for sale, 4503.
Right.
Rich does not live here, hasn't lived here for a bit. It's been a rental for a little bit.
Right.
So it's for sale, you can purchase it, but Rich will still be in the building. So if you want Rich as your neighbor,
that's
he's a great guy. And obviously
not necessarily a selling point, but
sure. You mentioned to me the other day that you moved from, was it the Gotham? Is that the condo in New York?
Yeah, it's 87th and 3rd in Manhattan.
And another one of your neighbors that used to live there also moved into this building.
Yeah.
So
tell me
about that story. I think that's fascinating.
Because this was in so in 2017 we bought this unit, right?
Yeah.
And we had closed on it, but we hadn't moved in yet.
Gotcha.
Right, and they were doing a social, a building social, happy hour thing, right, on the 37th floor, and so we were like, oh yeah, we want to go and meet the neighbors and the like. So we came in to just for that, and we're at the social, and I see a friend of mine who served. So I was on the board at the Gotham, right? And he served on the board as well, right? And I was like, "What are you doing here?"
Right.
And it turned out that he and his wife had moved into the building the year earlier.
Gotcha.
Right. And it was hilarious because it's kind of like this, wow, great minds think alike.
Sure.
Right? Kind of thing. But yeah, he had some former ties to Philadelphia.
Gotcha.
Right. And so he basically came to Philly and retired here.
Okay.
Right. And and he loves it. All right. And we talk often about the the transition from New York to Philadelphia. Right. And it's quite. We're quite sure it's a great transition.
Gotcha. So I was going to say, is he still bullish on Philly? He enjoys his experience here.
Absolutely, yeah. So I guess he's been here since 2016. I guess at this point,
okay.
Right? And,
gotcha. And he's still in the building.
9 years, still in the building. Yeah.
Okay.
And they I think they're very happy with the living arrangement, the situation. So.
Right. So if you live in the Gotham in New York City, this is the building for you, apparently. Do you know of anyone else, I'm curious, that is from New York City in the building? Not necessarily the Gotham, but just from New York City. I know there are other folks that I know of that you might not, that are from New York City. So it's definitely...
like I say, I think it's going to become more popular.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Because it really is a... very easy transition to make, right? And it's like getting 90% for 50% off, right?
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
So we talked about the building, at length at this point, and we've talked about Center City, obviously. But I'm curious, what is your favorite amenity about Center City? Like, what do you like the most about living here?
About Center City?
Yeah, Center City in general, not the building, just Center City in general.
Well, my wife is a foodie. Okay, so. I have to say that the restaurant scene in Philadelphia is amazing.
Okay.
Right? Especially for the size of the city. I think
sure.
The number of really terrific restaurants, right? Really world-class restaurants. Actually, so there's a sushi place in Philadelphia, that omakase place, that is that I really believe is the best in the world.
Oh wow!
Right?
What's it called?
Royal Sushi.
Okay.
Right, and
Gotcha.
and my wife and I have eaten. It's her favorite cuisine, right? And we've eaten it all over the world, right, including in Tokyo, right? And
sure.
And we always come back here and kind of go, wow, this is the best.
Gotcha. It's not a chain, right? Just in
No. It's just in Philadelphia.
Okay, so that's our sponsor of the show today, Royal Sushi. Send me a check.
Tough reservation to get, right?
Gotcha.
So that one's not nearly as accessible
Sure.
as something. But the food scene is, in general, like top notch, and with the exception, I think, of Royal Sushi, very accessible.
Sure.
Right. So you can get last minute reservations at some really spectacular restaurants, right? And there's so many places that are just even under the radar, right? We love to explore and we love to discover. So
if I'm a New Yorker watching this right now, listening to what you're talking about, my guess is, and I've heard this from other people, they're like, no way, Philly's not that great. Like, this food scene can't really be that good. Like, and I assume New York is better, right? Probably in your mind, aside from the wait, right, and the hassle to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, I might be wrong. I'm curious of your thoughts. Like, just the food quality and maybe food service, right? Like the experience once you're there, is that better in New York City versus Philly? Or is it comparable?
So if you're talking in generalities, right?
Sure.
It's like, I think, there's the Michelin star restaurants, right?
Right.
Michelin is just coming to Philadelphia right now, right? So it's a new thing, in Philly, right? But there are world famous restaurants in New York, right? And I think that the food scene in Philadelphia is really approaching that, right? And I think it'd be very interesting with the Michelin, with the Michelin entry into Philadelphia, to see which restaurants end up where with how many Michelin stars or whatever, right? But I would just say that there are certainly many restaurants in Philadelphia that could be in Manhattan, would be very successful in Manhattan too.
Gotcha.
Right, are totally competitive, right? With the best restaurants in Manhattan.
Gotcha.
I think it really is that good, right?
Okay.
The experience, right? The overall experience, right? I mean, I think of restaurants like Vetri, right? And we love to go to A Kitchen.
Okay.
Right. That's our regular place.
Gotcha.
Right. But
you can just walk in there, right?
And you can pretty much just walk. Yeah. I mean, you want to make
Friday night.
You want to make a reservation,
Sure.
right? But the thing is, it's not a hard reservation to get, right?
Right.
And the food is awesome. I mean, really awesome, right? And my wife thinks so too, and she's a foodie, right? So,
what is your favorite restaurant other than Royal Sushi?
Probably Vetri.
Okay.
Right, it's an Italian restaurant.
Gotcha. What's your favorite dish there? For anyone listening, looking for recommendations.
So they have amazing pasta.
Okay.
Right, and it's actually different every time, right?
Gotcha.
But the pasta is just incredible.
Okay. So we talked about walkability earlier, and New York City is pretty thorough transit, right? Like the train system, the subway system is very effective, right? I don't go there a whole lot, like I said, but you can't, like, if you walk to Manhattan, that's just one end to the other. Just Manhattan is like 5 hours, right, or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I think it's like 10 miles tip to tip, right?
Okay.
So it's
in Center City, from river to river, Schuylkill to Delaware.
Yeah, it's a couple of miles.
Maybe like an hour walking.
Right.
So what's your experience been with, I guess, walkability, like coming from New York City, as far as, do you feel like you can explore so much more or easier, or it's kind of similar because you in one segment of Manhattan, you got everything you needed, so you didn't have to go up and down the whole 10 miles.
Right. I mean, Manhattan's bigger, right? And actually, so I'm Manhattan centric because I lived in Manhattan, but between Brooklyn and Queens and Manhattan, right? It's way bigger, right, than Center City, right? Yeah. But I think walkability wise and transit wise, right? Yeah. Philly's incredibly easy to get around, right? And actually that's in a manner very very similar to New York City, right? The subway system is just much bigger in New York City because the city's much bigger, right? But the mass transit in Philly is very good. Right, and very easy. Actually, so we have a place in Warminster too, right? In Bucks County. Yep. And I routinely ride the train from Warminster.
Regional.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Actually, that's the other thing about this location, right? I mean, Suburban Station is a block away, right? And so I go to the train station, and I'm on a train to Warminster in literally 10 minutes, right? So it's really that convenient. And 30th Street Station is very close, and the house car will take you there, right? So it's very convenient as well. But the subway stations, around Dilworth, right, around the City Hall, right, and we go to Eagles games and Phillies games down in South Philly. Yeah.
Will the car take you there? They don't go that far, right?
Yeah, the house car won't go that far.
You have to hop on Broad Street.
But you hop on the Broad Street line, and you're literally there in 15,
super convenient.
20 minutes, right? And actually, it reminded me a lot. I used to go to a lot of Yankee games in New York, and I'd hop on the 456 and the 4 train actually, and go straight up to Yankee Stadium. Right, it's very much like that, right? And so
the experience hasn't been, the walkability and the experience of Philly hasn't been diminished, coming from New York City. Yeah. So if someone's watching this from New York, hey, is my lifestyle going to be like? Do I have to get in a car? Do I have to use Uber all the time?
Oh no, definitely not. Yeah, definitely not. It really is walkable in the same sense that New York is walkable. Right? And the transit there are many transit options to get from one end of town to the other. So I mean, I suppose if you're walking from the art museum, right, down to I don't know, to South Philly for something, right, the Italian market or something, that would be a long walk, right? Yeah, but
for sure, but it's still doable.
But very doable, right? Very doable. And you can hop on a train anywhere in the middle, and be there in a couple of minutes.
So let's talk about this unit. 4503 is going to be for sale soon. 2 bed, 2 bath. Why do you think someone should buy this unit?
Yeah, it's the unit's 1,200 square feet, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, right? And it's kind of an open design, open floor plan, and it's just if you're a couple, it's super easy to take care of, right? And the finishes are very nice, right? Marble bathrooms and granite countertops in the kitchen and nice appliances and stuff like that. And you're in a full service building, right? So it makes for a very low stress, right? Kind of a lifestyle. Right.
Yeah, and affordable, right? So if you compare this to some of the other buildings right around the area.
Absolutely, yeah.
A lot of them are very expensive. I mean, Packard Grand's not, but I mean, compared to Packard Grand, this building blows it out of the water. I mean, their amenities, they're super dated. It's a nice building for the value, right? I'm not saying it's a bad building, but Liberty,
there's nice apartments in there, right? But I think obviously we prefer 2 Liberty, right? And there's. So like 1,200 square feet in New York is a large apartment,
right?
It's like,
and like $3 million.
Right. And the 2,000 square foot, right, is $2.5 million, right? Yeah. So I think it's this is frankly a steal, right? For the views you get, right? On the 45th floor, for the services that are in the building, right? And actually frankly the space in the apartment. It's a big bedroom, a small bedroom, and a big living area. With a kitchen counter and the like. And I think it's perfect for a couple or someone with maybe one child. Right.
100%.
So
100%. I'm curious, have you watched any of my videos that talk about what's coming in 2026 or my home price prediction video for 2028 on YouTube?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I'd like to get your feedback on this. I think we might have talked about it a little bit the other day, but there's a lot going on in 2026, right? The FIFA World Cup's going to be here, 9 of the games or 6, whatever it is. The World Final Cup is going to be just, I think, in Rutherford, New Jersey, half hour outside of this city. New York City, that is, an hour and a half maybe from here. The bisequential, however you say it, the 250th anniversary of the country, right? Obviously, it's happening here where the country was founded.
Right.
And, PGA Golf Championship, I think, or whatever it is. A couple MLB All-Star games, right? A lot of...
That's right. The All-Star Game's going to be here, too.
Right? A lot of prominent things are happening that year. And that's obviously intentional, right?
Right.
This is a big year for the country. The premise of my video is, well, a lot of people are going to come into the city more than normal. We already get, 33 to 40 million visitors a year, whatever the number is, I can't remember.
Okay.
From all over the world to see historic stuff in Rittenhouse Square and, the famous things about Philadelphia, right? To get cheesesteaks.
Right.
But with all the events going on in 2026, that's got to elevate the amount of tourists that we're going to get that year, right? I don't know if anybody's actually put predictions on this. I would love to have an economist on my channel and talk about this, but I'm thinking it's going to be double, maybe not double, because that's kind of a large number, right? To go to 30 to 60 million people in the city in 1 year is a large, multiple. But even if it's only 5 million more people, right? And a small percentage of those people find out that Philly's what we're talking about, right? Kind of a hidden gem, undervalued, under the radar, nicer than they've heard, right? People come here that still think, I would never live in Philly. It's dangerous. It's I would never, dirty, whatever the issue is, right? That they've heard. And you can read this on Reddit and other travel forums where someone comes in, was not planning to live here, was not coming here for exploration of, their next city, but with purely tourism. And then I moved here because I realized that Philly's cool, right? Yep. So even if a small percentage of the extra influx of people, right, in 2026 get that perception, and some of those people move here, what's going to happen?
Drive up demand, right?
Philly's going to get better. Philly's going to get more people.
Yeah.
Philly's going to get more expensive, right? Because if supply of homes stays the same and demand increases, well, pure economics says there's only one way the prices will go. And obviously, you don't know what's going to happen at a larger economic, macroeconomic level, right? Federal government and things like that. But just at a local scale, in my opinion, this is obviously biased. I am a realtor that primarily makes my living on people relocating to Center City, right? But I experience this day in and day out. That transition that we talked about earlier, but the perception, right? Every single week when I have someone in town, someone's like, yeah, I just got a text from my brother, Uncle Bob, right? Friend, why would you move to Philly? I literally hear this stuff all the time. And then they come here and they kind of have that in the back of their mind. They're like, is Philly going to be dangerous? And then again, we start walking around and they're like, wow, this is not at all what my distant uncle, friend that hasn't been here in 30 years, person that hates all cities thought. And they're like, this is better than expected. So if we get that, right, that perception shift, I think is all good things for the city. But I'm curious to get your take on my theory.
I brought, I don't know how many people to visit us in the city, right? And and I would totally agree with, the experience that you're having, right? Basically, people are surprised. When they come to Philadelphia, they're not expecting much. Right. And it's really pretty cool. Right. And so, I think that there is ground level shift in perspective, right? Where the more people that come to Philly, the more the more people realize that this is a pretty nice place, right? And so I mean my experience has been the same as yours, where we have friends who come to Philadelphia and they kind of go, wow. We take them around, right? We go to the restaurants or go to the orchestra or whatever, and just the regular attractions, right? Independence Hall and the Liberty Bell and all that kind of stuff, right? And I think I always get the reaction that I didn't know Philadelphia was that nice. Right. So I think I'm look. I want the best for the city, right? It's my new home, right? My adopted home. And I do think that the more exposure Philadelphia gets, right, the better it's going to be, right, for the growth of the city and for, look, I'm an owner here, so I do want my investment in this building to be productive, right? But I think it's also just good for the city, right, to sort of transcend the less than ideal image that it has, right? To really, and I think that the potential is there to be an incredible place, right? So.
100%. Now, I think some people, when they hear me in particular, because I ramble on about the city all the time, is maybe they accuse me of overselling the city. So we're not trying to do that, right? Like, Philly's not perfect. We've got crime, we've got issues, just like every major city in America has, right?
Absolutely.
But when you compare Philly to lots of other cities, and you look at the price and what you get for that, there really isn't that many comparable options. I mean, it's interesting because I have a unique vantage point that most people don't have, because when people reach out to me, they're not necessarily always sold on Philly. And one of the places that a lot of people compare to Philly is Atlanta.
Interesting.
I get inquiries all the time, like,
I wouldn't guess that.
So it's interesting. Well, I think it's because it's on the affordable scale, right?
Okay.
Like, New York versus Philly, people aren't typically making that comparison. A lot of times people are like, New York would be cool, especially I find some on the West Coast that want to retire and move, to the East Coast because it's more convenient to get flights to Europe and places like that, right? And then you look at New York and they're like, I'm priced out. That's often what happens, right? And then they start looking at alternatives. Well, Philly is an alternative, right? And we're actually pretty attractive as a city. Like, there's a lot of architectural beauty here that people don't realize. Like, we look like a European city in many ways, but
I'm shocked Atlanta is
I lost my train of thought. So Atlanta's very different than Philly. It's kind of exploded, right? Within the last, I don't know my Atlanta history that well, like 10 to 30 years, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to bag on Atlanta. I will do that in another video that I'm working on. But I don't think it's a comparison of what you get in Philly. Like, in Atlanta, you can't really walk. There are certain walkable communities, but for the most part, you drive and you deal with traffic.
You really need a car in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, for one reason or the other, people look at both. Not everyone, but a lot of my clients are looking at both. But Philly, it's just for what you get, the affordability and the amenities, the walkability, right? Like, everything kind of combined. Again, I'm not trying to oversell this, but Philly is a very much underrated city.
Absolutely.
And if perception changed like that, I think home prices could easily double within a year.
Right.
If everyone in America's, obviously that's not going to happen, right? I mean, we could probably triple at that point. I don't think, again, we're going to become New York, and I'm not trying to get us to become New York. I don't think that's necessarily what most people in Philly want.
Right. I was going to say, I'm not sure I want that.
Sure. Like, we don't.
I want my investments to do well.
Right. But not that well.
But I wouldn't want to change the vibe of Philly.
Sure.
100%. I've really come to love the vibe here. Right.
Yeah.
It would be great right? If Philly started to get the recognition,
right,
that I think it deserves. I actually know Atlanta a little bit, right?
Okay.
Because my father lived there.
Okay, good.
Right, just outside in the suburb called Alpharetta.
Okay.
Right, and I don't see the comparison. Sorry.
Gotcha. Sure.
Right. At least not for the urban kind of lifestyle, right? That if you're coming from New York, especially, right? If you're trying to make, if you want that really urban vibe,
right,
you don't get it in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Atlanta is just too spread out. Sure. It's too deserted at night. Yeah. Right.
I've heard the deserted part from the clients that are looking at it.
Right. I mean,
even where there's condos, like there's still no one walking.
and you're right. And it's not walkable at all. Right. So I think the Sunbelt fit cities that really were developed in the era of the car, right? Are just not designed for people to walk around. Yeah. Right. And so I think Philly wins that comparison, though, hands down. No contest.
100%.
At least to me.
Yeah, I mean, for most of my clients, honestly, as well. Like, they're looking at both, but generally, they're choosing Philadelphia for the most part, unless, again, they want drivability, which most people don't when they're considering Philly. Now, you could have a car here. So, for those folks that want a car, you could have a car in the city. Parking is certainly much easier than New York City and a lot of other cities, but you don't need one. That's really one of the benefits of the city, right? Like, you don't need
actually,
a car. You can have one.
I think... on the Upper East Side, a parking space is probably $1,000 a month. Right. So.
Yeah, and the peak in Philly is maybe like 6, but the average in Philly is probably 350.
But the thing that really shocks me is that I can drive to another part of town.
Yeah.
To a nice restaurant
and find a spot.
Yeah. On the street.
Yeah. You have to pay for that probably or move in 2 hours, but you can find not all the time, right? So again, not trying to oversell this. Like Friday night, maybe some places like Rittenhouse, it's gonna be difficult.
True. Rittenhouse would be a little harder, but South Street, for instance, right? A lot of really nice restaurants on South Street or in Queens Village or whatever, right? And plenty of parking, right? So it's actually, so we should highlight that, right? Because owning a car in Manhattan is a bear. Is really a bear, right? I mean, you're going to
have to go from one garage to another garage, I guess. You're gonna
parking is crazy, right? I mean, really crazy, right? I think congestion pricing has been it's been rescinded for at least a little bit, right? But that concept just sort of blew my mind, right?
Yeah.
And then insurance for a car in New York City is crazy.
So why do people, out of curiosity, own a car in New York? Because you can't really drive anywhere if you have one.
Well, no,
it's just
if you paid for a garage, right? You need to run a lot of errands, right? It is faster in a car, right? I mean, you can do it with Ubers, right, or with taxis or a subway or a bus or whatever. Yeah. But it's definitely faster in a car. Yeah. But you need two people. Because one person has to sit in the car, right, while the other person goes and runs the errand.
Right. Okay. Because that's what I was going to ask. Yeah. When you get to the establishment,
you cannot park.
It's like a Trader Joe's there if they have any in the city, or like Target. There's no parking spot.
No.
It's a parking lot rather.
Or you can put it in a garage, right? But then just sort of defeats the purpose.
Which is interesting that we're talking about that, because people might not know this, but there's a lot of places in the city that have parking lots. There's like multiple Targets, Giant, both Whole Foods in the city.
I think the Whole Foods has, and this one on
they're
South,
both free.
Yeah, they both have free parking. Right?
One Trader Joe's is free. The other one on 12th, I'm not sure, in Arch or wherever it is. Yeah. I don't go there because I live close to the other one. But you can find a parking spot and it's free. Now, you might have to wait at the Trader Joe's for like 5 minutes to get into the lot, but they're really efficient over there. To get people in and out. So if you have a car and you want a car, you can go grocery shopping, but it's not necessary for a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, I would rent cars when I lived in New York.
Okay.
To go out of the city.
Sure.
If you want to, do an excursion of any kind, right?
Right.
But this is so typical of things in New York. I'd go to the car rental place, and there'd be a huge line.
God.
Right. It would take me an hour to
that's a project just to get a car.
To get the car. Right?
Gotcha.
So yeah. I mean, look, if you want a car in Philly, it's just not that big a deal. Right. I mean, it's not cheap.
Sure.
Right. But it's not that big a deal.
Right.
So yeah. At least it's doable here.
Yeah.
Right. And considering it's a densely populated urban environment, right?
Sure.
It's still okay to have a car.
Yeah. Now, just for I think one of the things that I want my channel to keep doing is pushing the city to get better. So whether this podcast continues on regularly or for that long, I don't know where this is going to go, honestly. This is kind of my excursion into podcasting about the city in particular. But what one thing would you change about the city if you could change it?
Okay. I'm not sure I have a good answer for that. I don't really have that many. I mean, look, I want crime to go down, right? I want the quality of the housing stock to go up, right? I want the opioid crisis to go away, right? All of the things that you would kind of expect, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely a homeless problem in Center City, right?
Yeah.
But I think that might be true in every major city, right? At this point, right? So I'd love, if things could change, on that front. But I'm not sure I have, I mean, I would say that these concerns are going to be concerns for everybody, right? I'm not sure if I have a particular special grievance, right? That I'd like addressed.
Gotcha.
Right.
That's helpful. And since you mentioned the homeless crisis,
yeah,
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a crisis in Philly. You didn't say the word crisis. I did. I think. I don't know what it's like in New York, but I've heard it's much worse. Is that true in your experience, or is Philly comparable?
I wouldn't know now. I've been
Sure.
I've been out of Manhattan for more than a decade at this point. So
Gotcha.
So yeah, I don't think I can talk about the state of it right now.
Sure, that's fair.
Right.
Yeah, I mean we do have homeless folks here. From what I gather from other people that are currently living in New York but have been visited recently, like within the last. Today, I was with New York folks, clients. Last week I was in New York. I have a New Yorker coming in, I think on Thursday, to look at a property with me. And generally they all are saying similar things, like the homeless issue is worse in New York, and Philly's cleaner than New York. Again, we're not perfect. We got our issues, right? We do have homelessness. We do have some of those things that I would love to see change. If I do keep this podcast going on forever, eventually I want to have the mayor on the podcast and talk about some stuff. I know that people are working through this, and there's so much more we could do probably. And this podcast is not about how we fix those large problems,
right?
But yeah, for sure, I think we all want to see the same thing happen for the city, right? People being healthy, the city being healthy overall, which does involve homelessness and mental illness and drugs and crime and like all these types of things. With the new mayor that we've had for about a year and a half now, I think.
Yeah, it looks like she's tried to clean things up, a bit, right? So that's encouraging, right? And like, I mean, you're making me think about like, okay, so I'm a runner, right? I love running in the city, right? Okay. And actually you can run along both rivers, which is really nice, right? And actually river to river, right? It's there's lots of nice trails and things like that, right? They just opened the trail south on the Schuylkill, heading south, right, with a new pedestrian bridge, right? That's beautiful. I love it, right? So the more of those kind of projects,
Right.
that happen, the better, right? And so,
Yeah.
so I think where New York has Central Park or Manhattan has Central Park, right? Philadelphia has Fairmount Park, but it's not nearly as utilized, right? Or it hasn't lived up to its potential, I don't think.
Right.
Right.
I think that's accurate. I don't really know about New York as much, but yes.
Yeah.
There's so much room to grow.
Right. The park, it could be. I mean, the area is tremendous, right? But I don't think it's as developed as it could be.
Right.
Right. So
from here to Liberty, folks watch my channel regularly. I talk about the Schuylkill River Trail like constantly.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I live in Fiddler Square. Like I live like
you're right next
2 minutes. I'm on.
Yeah, you're right next to it. Yeah.
And outdoor space, green space is getting back to what I just said. Like health is good for the city, right? Like mental health, like all this health. And outdoor space, green space is, I don't know if you would say necessary. I feel necessary. Well, for me,
it's one of the things that makes
it feel good.
Makes
right?
it really nice to be in the city.
Yeah.
Right. I actually enjoy running in the city more than I do in the burbs.
Okay.
So
just on sidewalks and.
Yeah, but really to get to the trail, right? Lots of people, lots of things to look at, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's very nice.
Gotcha. And from here running to the trail, how long does it take you? Like 10 minutes? 7 minutes?
Yeah, 10 minutes max. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an easy, jog over to. I guess you can go down on Market Street, right down to the trail, or on Chestnut or on Walnut, right?
Yeah.
So it's very easy.
How do you go? Did you go down Spruce or Pine, or one of the? Or do you go down?
No, mostly I run straight down Market Street.
Okay.
To the stairs and then back and down to the trail.
Gotcha.
And then now I can go south past South Street, right?
Right.
Across.
You're doing some mileage.
Yeah. I mean,
from there, that's like what, a mile?
5 miles, 6 miles,
okay.
Right?
Gotcha.
If I go, across the bridge and then come back on South Street or something like that.
Yeah.
Up 16th.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really fun to run in Philadelphia, and actually, I guess that's the other thing too. Is the traffic is less than in New York, right? So it's actually more pleasant.
100% less noise, less obviously waiting, but also I've heard less honking.
Way less honking.
I had a client come in. I forget who it was at this point, but maybe a month ago. I was like, I don't hear horns. Like, what's wrong?
Right. So
there's one right there.
So when I drive in Philadelphia, I use my horn all the time out of habit.
Sure.
and my wife is always saying, "Don't blow your horn."
Right. It's fine in New York, right? But I know people
in
New York, maybe certain
if,
sections.
If there's a millisecond delay, the horns go off.
Sure. Good.
So, if somebody's looking at their phone for an extra second, right, or something, forget about it.
Gosh.
All the horns are off.
Yeah. Well, Rich, I appreciate your comments about how to improve the city and like what needs to grow, and obviously everything we talked about today, like why the city is amazing, how it's a good value.
Yeah.
And thank you for your time. I really appreciate that.
No, not at all. It's been fun. I love talking about Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, I
really do feel strongly about it.
Right, 100%. Any parting words for the audience today? Is there anything else you'd want them to know about the building, this unit, Center City at all, especially if they're not in the city, if they're from New York City or another city or the burbs?
Yeah, I think the main thing is ignore anything you've heard, right? And just come and check it out yourself, right? Because I think the experience that I've had is that when people check it out, it's a very nice place to be.
100%. 100%. Thank you. Well, you heard Rich. If you are curious about checking out the city, if you even are remotely thinking about relocating to Philadelphia, do not rule it out based on what your friend, brother, uncle, colleague, whoever has said to you something negative. Come check it out, because you might just be pleasantly surprised.